What's going on, guys? Tyler here from Audioholics Anonymous, and today I bring to you another vinyl update video. So let's get right into it, because I got quite a few more to do today as well. Starting off with Anthrax for All Kings. This is the album that got me into Anthrax, and I would say it's very underrated. People don't talk about this album like they really should. So it's got like a cool sleeve on it. You take it off and it slowly reveals to be like this really cool colored sleeve. Sort of like neon almost. And the lineup is phenomenal here. We got Joey Belladonna on vocals, Scotty Ian on guitar, Joe Donace on guitar, Frank Bello on bass, and Charlie Benante on drums. Great lineup, great lineup. And I got the like sun splat version of the vinyl, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that was Anthrax for All Kings. Get it back in its little sleeve thing here. It can be kind of a pain sometimes. There we go. Put that to the side. Okay, so next we have Candlemass live in the Green Valley. Alright, so Candlemass is obviously one of my favorite bands, but I don't really think they've ever really had a really good live album, not something you can really sink your teeth into, whether it's poor production, not a good set list, or whatever the case may be. This is the best one they've ever put out, hands down. It's got an amazing set list for fans of Candlemass. Well of Souls, Dark Reflections, Mirror Mirror, Ancient Dreams on side A, and then side B gets Astoralis, Bewitched, Dark Are the Veils of Death on side B, and then side C is Under the Oak, A Sorcerer's Pledge. Yes, they play A Sorcerer's Pledge. Fucking amazing. And then side D, we get a little Doom Jam, a little instrumental thing, and then Solitude, and then as a bonus track, we get Demon's Gate. Great fucking album. Now, the only downside here is that this isn't a true live album in the normal sense, as they don't really play live per se. They are playing in a studio, but the studio, they're playing live. They're just transmitting the audio through the studio to a live stream. This was a live stream performance. So it still sounds like a live show, but maybe it's a bit dry, just because it's not truly a live show, so he's not like talking to the crowd, you don't hear the crowd, that sort of thing. Either way, it's a good listen, and let's be honest, some of the best live albums of all time weren't really live. Kiss Alive. Yeah. So, Candlemass. Next, I got AC/DC Power Up, their new album. I'm not a huge fan of AC/DC, as you might know if you watch the channel at all, but this album, it's alright, man. It's got some good songs on it. Shot in the Dark is good, Through the Mists of Time is good, Witch's Spell is good, Demon Fire, No Man's Land, Code Red. Some really freaking good songs on this album, and I feel like AC/DC are kind of just having fun with it in their kind of old age, and I feel like that translates to me, the listener, a little bit better than maybe someone like Alice Cooper with his Detroit Stories album. That just ends up boring, even though you can clearly hear that he's having fun with it. It just doesn't translate to the listener. But with this album, I feel like it does. Good album. Next, I have the new Gojira album, Fortitude. This one, I have a special variant. It's a black ice version, so it's like clear, but it's black. I don't know if you can see that at all, but it's pretty good. Sorry, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. Allergy season and all that. But yeah, this is in at least a challenger to my favorite Gojira album, which, you know, it changes every week. The Way of All Flesh, I've always loved, but then you got From Mars to Sirius, which is a masterpiece, and then you have L'Enfant Sauvage, and now Fortitude. Magma was never really a runner-up, but this is a great fucking album, and the only song you could even argue isn't great is The Chant, but I, for one, think it works. So, big fan of this album, big fan of this band, glad I have it. Next, I have Architects, their new record, For Those That Wish to Exist. I do have a special version of this one, too. It's like a misty blue-green, sort of purple thing going on. Pretty cool. Sounds good on vinyl as well, because this is more of a dynamic, poppy kind of Architects album, and that's not to say there aren't heavy tracks. There are, but I feel like there's more diversity and more influence in the songwriting than a normal Architects album, so I enjoy it for what it is. Holy Hell and All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us are definitely better records, but it's still a good album, guys. Come on. So the next few I have are Beatles records that I picked up, starting with Revolver, which is still probably my favorite Beatles album. I mean, come on. Taxman, Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, Love You Too, Here, There, and Everywhere, She Said, Good Day Sunshine, And Your Bird Can Sing, For No One, Dr. Robert, I Want to Tell You, Got to Get You Into My Life, and Tomorrow Never Knows. Great album. I definitely didn't skip over any songs called Yellow Submarine, because there is no such song called Yellow Submarine. That is just something that does not exist. Moving on. Rubber Soul by the Beatles. Pretty good record. Not one of my favorites, but cool to have. And finally, Abbey Road. This is an album that's grown on me quite a bit, but it's still not my favorite Beatles album. I still think Revolver is better, Sgt. Pepper is better, Magical Mystery Tour is better. It's good, though. It's still good. So the next two are Sabbath records. I have Volume 4. I mean, do I even need to, explain to you why Volume 4 is awesome? Come on. Wheels of Confusion, Tomorrow's Dream, Supernaut, Snowblind, Cornucopia, Laguna Sunrise, FX, Same Fight as Stands, Under the Sun, Changes. Whole album, front to back, great. And next I got Dehumanizer, which is an album that I used to hate, but now I like quite a lot. And the cool thing about this is that it actually comes with a bonus disc. So it's one LP, but then I have a bonus disc on top of that, which has some live versions and other things thrown in. Pretty cool. So next I have Ember by Breaking Benjamin. I don't think this one is special. Yeah, no, it's just regular black vinyl. But I like this album. It's probably my favorite Breaking Benjamin album. Cool to have. I have another Dire Straits album, Love Over Gold, and now I'm one away from a complete Dire Straits collection on vinyl, which is pretty insane. You know, when I first started collecting vinyl, I don't think I was a huge fan of Dire Straits, but I come to them a lot when I listen to vinyl records. I come to them a lot. That's for sure. Speaking of bands that I come to a lot, this is one of my favorite bands, and I'm really happy to finally own Haken records. So the first one I have here is The Mountain. The Mountain is, of course, the record that put Haken on the map. People know Haken because of the song Cockroach King. But there's so much more than that to talk about with this album. You know, you have the very beautiful intro, The Path, going into Atlas Stone, which is a very uplifting, epic-sounding song, going right into Cockroach King, which everyone knows is progressive genius. And then you've got In Memoriam, which is a very heavy, dark song, Because It's There, which goes back to this sort of poppy sound. And then you get Falling Back to Earth, one of Haken's best songs. Then you go on to As Death Embraces, such a soulful song. Pareidolia, another one of Haken's best epics. Somebody, The Path Unbeaten, and Nobody make up side D. This album is just full of diversity. It's full of jazz influence. If you never listen to Haken, this is the album that should get you started. That said, I should say that my version of the record is highly flawed, unfortunately. I have to add quite a bit of weight on my needle to get it to play through Pareidolia, which is quite sad because Pareidolia is a great song. And if I put too much pressure on the needle, unfortunately, it hurts the vinyl, so I can't really do that much. Quarter helps a little bit, but it still skips. unfortunate, but better to have some of it work than none of it work, I suppose, and I can always replace it one day. Next, I have Affinity, which is possibly my favorite Haken album if we're talking about single albums. This album has such atmosphere. Ross Jennings as a vocalist really shines on this record, and the songwriting in particular is just very good on this album. Starting off with like a very sort of electronic Affinity.exe leading into Initiate, which is one of the most emotional songs that you can listen to. 1985, A Love Letter to Van Halen in the 80s. Lapse, which is kind of an underrated song on the album. A lot of people don't talk about it, but it's good. And then the entirety of side B is taken up by, I don't know, crystallized is, it's hard to say, but one of my favorite Haken epics, The Architect. That song features Einar from Leprous on the harsh vocals in the midsection of the song, but again, just a deeply emotional song. It's very, the songwriting is very mature, and Haken aren't exactly known for being mature, I would say, at least not in their early albums. I shouldn't say that, they're just kind of juvenile at times, but this is a very serious song, and it feels like it. But Haken realized that, because they opened the next side with Earthrise, which is one of the most uplifting songs I've ever listened to. And then you get into Red Giant, which is just a beast in of itself, and the Endless Knot has like borderline dubstep in it. They go in some weird directions in this album, and Bound by Gravity at the end being the progressive pop masterpiece. Great album. And then I've got Vector and Virus. I'm putting these together because I pretty much consider the two of them one album, and when thought of that way, I would say this is the best work that Haken has. It's much heavier, more cohesive. The songwriting is arguably more memorable. Some great songs on here. So for Vector, we've got The Good Doctor, very, very catchy song. Puzzle Box, great prog. Veil, but Best of Both Worlds, Know by Mouth is a very technical instrumental. Host, Cell Divides. The other one, Virus, has Prosthetic, thrashy as hell. Invasion, again, progressive masterpiece. Carousel, catchy, proggy. The Strain, kind of poppy in like the same line of Britney Spears. Canary Yellow is very Affinity-esque. And then you've got the whole epic Messiah complex. Absolutely phenomenal album or albums, depending on how you think of it. Now, on the opposite spectrum, we have some Grand Funk Railroad or Grand Funk. I have Phoenix, I have this one, and I have Closer to Home. Moving on. No, I'm just not huge into Grand Funk. It's cool that I have some of Grand Funk, but I wouldn't, pay a lot of money to keep it. If somebody offered me $10 for it, I'd probably give it to them. Next, I have Ice Nine Kills, The Silver Scream. I'm a big fan of Ice Nine Kills, and I'm a big fan of this album. And I'm a big fan of this. Look at that blood splatter record. Oh, dude, it's so cool. Awesome. This is, of course, a symphonic metalcore punk band, horrorcore, whatever you want to call them. Every song on the album is about a horror movie. You've got The American Nightmare, which is Nightmare on Elm Street. Thank God It's Friday, which is Friday the 13th. Stabbing in the Dark, Halloween, Savages, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Jig Is Up, Saw. Grave Mistake, which is about The Crow. Rocking the Boat, it's about Jaws. Enjoy Your Sleigh, The Shining. Freak Flag, House of a Thousand Corpses, The World Is in My Hands. I believe that was about Edward Scissorhands. Merry Xmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Love Bites, American Werewolf in London, and finally, It Is the End, of course, Stephen King's It. Great record, awesome concept. I'm interested to see what they do next. So the next bunch is some Jethro Tull. I've never heard either of these albums, but I picked them up because it's Tull. I have Heavy Horses and Too Old to Rock and Roll and Too Young to Die. I'm assuming they're good. It's Jethro Tull, but... Next, kind of proud to have this one. This is Plastic Ono Band. You know, John Lennon is a great songwriter. Mother, Hold On, I Found Out, Working Class Hero, Isolation, Remember, Love, Well, 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 Look at Me, God, My Mummy's Dead. Fantastic album. Just a fantastic album. Happy to have it. Much better on vinyl. Next I have the Star Wars soundtrack. Why? Because why not? Leftoverture by Kansas. I'm a semi-fan of Kansas. I wouldn't say I'm like a die-hard fan, but this album in particular is really good. Magnum Opus is the best part of the song, or the best part of the album, just that entire epic. But Carry On My Wayward Son is of course on this record. Good stuff. And then I have Live, the Johnny Winter Band. I think that's what they are anyway. I was recommended this by somebody, that's why I have it, and it's pretty good blues. Pretty good blues. It's got a cover of Long Tall Sally, Johnny Be Good. There's some pretty good stuff on here. Good blues rock sort of stuff. Next I have Don't Break the Oath by Merciful Fate. Merciful Fate is the first wave of black metal, very influential band. This is a great album, of course, with King Diamond on vocals, and look at this record. Yes! It's like orange flaming fire. It fits right in with the album cover. I love it. Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. You know, just really good progressive instrumental music. Speaking of really good progressive instrumental music, also related to horror movies, New Goblin, Tour 2013 EP. This is pretty much all the Goblin I think I need, but it's got your Suspiria theme, your Deep Red theme, your Tenebrae theme, and then there's like a extra on here, which I think is just like from one of their albums or something, but it's really good. It sounds great. It's awesome. So next I have, oh yeah, also it's a red vinyl, which is pretty cool. So next I have Pantera, The Great Southern Trendkill. This is my favorite Pantera album. I think it's more mature than the rest of them. Like Pantera, a lot of their albums are just like, oh, I'm gonna fuck you up, I'm so tough, I'm so badass. This album isn't that, for the most part. Like a lot of it is political. It's about the news. There's Suicide Note Part 1 and Part 2, which is about Phil Anselmo's attempts at suicide. Just, it's a great record. It's a great record. Floods has one of the best solos in metal history. Dimebag really brought it with the tone on this album. This is my favorite Pantera tone of all of their albums. It's just nasty and southern, and it's just awesome. The tone feels like every time a note is played or he palm mutes the guitar and chugs away, you're getting bit by a snake in the desert or something. It's fucking badass. So next we have one of the best metal records of all time, Rainbow Rising, with possibly the best metal song ever written, Stargazer. This is progressive, it's epic, power metal-y, well written. It's just a phenomenal album, front to back. So I got some Tears for Fears stuff. I got Songs from the Big Chair, which is the only album I've ever heard by the band, but I love it. It's got Shout, Working Hour, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Mother's Talk, I Believe, Broken, Head Over Heels, Listen. Great album. And then this is like a EP or a single or something. It's got Sowing the Seeds of Love on side 1, and then Tears Roll Down on side 2, and then a Shout US remix on side 2 also. So, cool stuff. Next I have Witherfall, The Curse of Autumn, which is probably going to end up being the best album of 2021. It's going to be hard to beat this for me. This is neoclassical, progressive, doomy. They have so many different genres that they encompass, but nonetheless, they have their own unique sound, which is hard to come by these days with newer metal bands. The vocalist is, I forget his name. Hold on, let me see if I can find it in the liner notes or something. Oh, here we go. Joseph Michael. Joseph Michael is the vocalist, and he's this guy, I believe. And he brings it on this record. He sounds a bit like World Dane, so he did actually replace World Dane in Sanctuary as a result of that, but I feel like, and this might be blasphemous, I feel like he is a bit of a better singer than World Dane. He is an amazing low end, an amazing high end, everything in the middle, great tone, great dramatic, phrasing, just amazing vocalist. And Jake Dreyers, the guitar player, is phenomenal on this album. Technicality, groove, catchiness, he's got it all. And everybody else is great too. But yeah, this is a well-written album. My favorite song is As I Lay Awake. I would recommend looking that up, or Another Face, if you want to check out this band. The Other Side of Fear is another recommendation. It's a great song, very blazing. But yeah, great album. Very well produced as well, I should say. So next, kind of in the same vein, I have Souls of Black by Testament. Flawed album, but it's got some amazing songs. 7 Days of May, Souls of Black, Malpractice, just some awesome songs, and probably the most badass album cover of all fucking time. So, great. Santana, Abraxas. This album is the most streamlined Santana album. It's got most of the hits on it. Oye Como Va, Black Magic Woman / Gypsy Queen. But it's so much more than that. There's so many good songs on this record, so much good jams, so much. It's just great. If you're a Santana fan, you love Abraxas already. I don't gotta tell you. And if you're not a Santana fan, listen to this shit. It'll make you one. So next, I picked up Tyranny and Mutation by Blue Oyster Cult, which is really underrated, actually. Great songs. And finally, Nowhere Generation by Rise Against, which is their new album that just came out not too long ago. And I got a clear vinyl variant from FYE. Let's see if I can pull it out. There we go. Which is pretty rare, so cool stuff. Yeah, so those are all the new vinyl records that I've added to my collection. I hope you enjoyed this video. I apologize for my coughing and whatever throughout the video. Like I said, I'm not feeling too great, but wanted to do this video anyway, just for fun. So I hope you enjoyed it. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Bye-bye.